Director Herbert is here because in planning yesterday, in discussion of 2019-7, several people said that there were questions about enforcement in general and how we're doing, and I guess as it relates to this specific bill. However, our sponsor...
You want me to see if Freddie's available?
Yeah, he's in the public... So I really do want to give us this opportunity to ask questions. Hey.
Director Herbert, do you want to give a synopsis of what the questions were, or do you want to just leave it alone?
I don't know that I...
Oh, okay, sorry.
So first you got to introduce the bill.
Yep, true.
Yes.
Our first agenda item is 2019-7.
Councilmember requested that it be moved to the heel.
I removed my,
Then you want to find us more, Phil?
we only have one other.
Very much heel on this one.
We're already
Are
at
you
the
a
heel.
sponsor on this
Each of
one?
the heels. Front heel, back heel.
Heels
right down to the toes,
I
right?
haven't seen her yet, I'll go
All right,
look.
thank you. 2021-792 by Porterfield referred to the code,
It's $7.95.
yes. Amends the Metro Code pertaining to intermodal containers on residential property. And
So moved.
Seconded.
Councilmember Parker has gone to look for our
I
sponsor.
guess I'm happy to sign on this if she,
Okay.
if,
You know what she's got to say?
that's a detail I didn't really think anybody would bring up.
Why don't we just defer it by rules?
I was going to say, it's going to get deferred by rule here in a minute.
What's referred to two different? No.
No, right now we're on $7.95.
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion to defer by rule.
Second.
Well, I don't know that you move it. If she's not here, it's automatic.
That's true.
Ding.
Okay, so
And now we're back to
now we're
waiting
back to
on
item
Councilmember
one.
O'Connell. And I really don't want to, like, the directors come to specifically ask questions.
So if you move it,
Well, we could move
get it on the floor.
I don't know. Can we
Yeah,
move
let's-
it and
yeah.
then?
Director Herbert can address any questions we have
All right.
without the
All
sponsor.
right, 2019-7 by O'Connell amends the Metro Code of Laws regarding the existence of a short-term rental property owner occupied in a two-family zoning
So moved.
district.
Seconded.
All right, so in general, I know like 6 months ago, you and I had a conversation about how enforcement's going, and there were some pretty good numbers, although I know anecdotally that we still have some concerns, residents, constituents. But can you, like, how are we doing in terms of being able to enforce short-term rentals, especially when it comes to noise issues and conflicts between close neighbors, whatever that may be?
Let me say this, that got a report that in May of this year, the Codes Department received the Granicus Award, which is the award for the highest rate of compliance in the United States for Nashville in terms of short-term rental enforcement. I ran the numbers this morning, and we were at 97.5% compliance rate.
Can you define that? I mean, how do they measure that?
So they take the number of permits issued, then divide that by the number of known properties that are known to be in violation. And so we've got like 5,800 validly operating short-term rentals. Legally operating, we have like 260 or something that we know are illegal as of today. Now, in terms of that seems like a lot, but in terms of enforcement for us, please remember that all during COVID, we could not enforce because our enforcement is bound through environmental court, and the court was closed. So, as of now, we're back up and running strong. I talked to my enforcement team. We're writing between 10 and 15 warrants a month. That doesn't seem like much, but it's actually less than before. And the reason is because, thanks to everybody, we have 2 more short-term rental enforcement officers. So now we're able to actually go and see the properties that people are complaining about, and if we catch the owner there or whatever, So many times, we're able to correct the situation or get them to stop or get the permit or whatever it takes to come into compliance, so we don't have to write the warrant. So the compliance rate goes up. So I mean, it's all about compliance. We don't want to ding people, we just want them to come into compliance. So I'll report that happily, that we're the high, for the city our size, we have the most compliance in the United States.
In terms of getting permitted or in?
In terms of, in the number of permits that we issue, of the ones that are operating legally. When we first started, in most jurisdictions across the board, about 15% is the national average in terms of ones that are operating legally, and we're at 97.5 as of today.
So in terms of the 280, for example, if you put them in compliance, then they go in the other column and it further increases that compliance rate. Is that
That's
right?
correct. That's correct. Let's see, this bill, we've got no objection to, because for us, it's not gonna create any additional enforcement. You can think of this bill as being on an HPR. We have 2 units on a lot. This bill would allow the set, whereas currently only one of those units could have a short-term rental. Now, if they're both owner-occupied by different owners, then both of them now under this bill could have a short-term rental owner-occupied permit. For us, this is no different than just another single-family residence doing an owner-occupied short-term rental. Does it create any additional work for us? If it does, it's absolutely negligible. It's nominal. I don't have any issues with this bill. I don't see it as producing any significant more work for us or causing us any further consternation, other than, what any other short-term rental may or may not do.
Well, congrats on your compliance. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're pretty happy about
Absolutely.
that.
That's great.
Yeah, we're pretty happy about it.
Can I ask?
Yes,
If there are
Councilmember
other
Allen.
committee members that want to ask questions. So, I mean, I think what I hear people being most unhappy about at this point now is not whether or not people have a permit, but the noise issues.
Right, okay.
Can you talk about
Yes.
enforcement of noise issues and the ability to stop that,
Yes.
and if there's a problem, how to stop it permanently?
Right. So, you may recall that the state stepped in and preempted us on a lot of our ability to enforce. And so what the state law now says is that we would have to, in order to revoke a permit for nuisance, if you will, we would have to have 3 separate violations for a property. The violation would have to be adjudicated to its end so that there's no further avenue of appeals left. We would have to have 3 of those at separate times, and these violations have to be violation of general law and not violation of anything related to the short-term rental ordinance itself. So let's just say noise is a violation of general law. What we would have to do in that case is, because noise is under the jurisdiction of the police department would have to come in, would have to cite them, we'd have to carry them to court, we'd have to get a judgment against them for that. That judgment then would have to be not appealable, and then we'd have to do that 2 additional more times before we could ever revoke a permit. That's, the state is really hamstrung on us on that, and since they did that, we've, as a practical matter, for us to revoke permits, is doggone difficult.
Have we done it?
Once. No, wait a minute. Nope, I don't think we have. I don't think we have. We can't meet the standard. And it takes 3 separate lawsuits under 3 separate, for the same property, but on 3 separate occasions. You don't get to stack them up. Oh, they did 5 in one night. You can't do that.
Councilmember Roberts.
So in a situation like that, is there a time period? Is it within 1 year, 3 offenses, or in perpetuity?
As far as I know, it's in perpetuity. I'm not aware of a time
It
frame
was in
on
1
it.
year, but we dropped that. Everybody noticed.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
no, it's
Okay.
in perpetuity.
Okay. That's it.
Councilmember Sledge.
So, I'm gonna take the other side of this for a minute. So in district I represent, speaking of those 3 strikes, I've had 2 separate incidents on STRs where bullets went into houses, one of which killed somebody. Permit couldn't be revoked because that the permit got revoked on a technicality because of how they listed the permit in one of those instances. So when you talk about 3 separate lawsuits, we're not talking just about noise. You could have multiple people murdered, and it doesn't hit the 3 strikes penalty. So the problem I have with this particular piece of legislation is you're in a district like the one I represent, we got HPRs all over the place. People are on top of each other. We got 3 foot, 5 foot setbacks. And when I hear we have to have 3 separate lawsuits that are not appealable, I hear we haven't revoked the permit. When we start getting these complaints, y'all, the thing I have to tell folks who are now not 100 feet away or 50 feet away or 20 feet away, who are 3 feet away from these problem properties, functionally there's nothing I can do. So that's why I have a problem with this legislation, and I think it needs a lot more work.
So your constituent was killed, or the person staying in the
The
Airbnb
person
was killed?
staying in the Airbnb.
And so did the bullet come from inside the house or outside the
Came
house?
from a party related to the property, came from multiple bullets from outside the house
Okay.
into that.
You know, we've seen that when I saw that before a couple of years ago, and it was right after the state law went into effect, and it was a drive-by shooting, and we couldn't even count that as a strike, and the reason was because there was no way to prove that it was in relation to the short-term rental, or was it just a random drive-by shooting with bullets thrown at the house?
I
We
mean,
couldn't do anything with it.
in real estate, I think probably Councilor Johnson can attest to this. We see on Meharry and Jefferson and some other streets, bullet holes are in the walls quite often. And I don't think that they're usually aimed at someone. I think that is a hugely unfortunate, horrible thing that happens. But I don't think that's related usually to the Airbnb issue.
Councilman Foley, did you have a question?
What happened with the one in my district where we had the 3 strikes over on Woodmont Boulevard? The BZA revoked their permit after those 3 strikes, and then they went to court and it got revoked, and they haven't operated a short-term rental there since then. Is that by choice, or?
And that may very well have been before the state, I can't remember how long
It's been
ago
a
that,
while.
it's been
So
a
it could've
while,
been
so it was
before the
probably
state
before the
preempted
state preempted
Okay.
us. Because we were actively pursuing those until the state legislature stepped in.
Chair, I've got a follow-up question on similarly Councilmember Foley's issue. There was one that was going before court, y'all were fighting it. We lost actually, but in the process, the ownership switched, it was sold. And so when the ownership switched, from what the other owner of the HBR in this instance said, they were not able to then get a permit like they're looking for. And I've got folks who fear that in instances like that, it actually opens up. I mean, and it does, functionally from this legislation, opens up their HBR, whereas before, this was a concern that they knew that they had some sort of legal buffer of. I mean, this will open up more properties owner occupied currently.
Yeah, it will. I mean, whereas currently now, if you got an HPR with 2 units on a single lot, only one of those is entitled to a permit. This would, if these were under separate ownership, it would allow both to have a short-term rental, owner-occupied short-term rental permit.
One other question about the percentage of properties that are not in compliance. Do you have any kind of a breakdown of the non-owner occupied versus owner occupied in that number?
I'm sorry, I don't. What host compliance does literally on a daily basis is scan all known platforms for indications or advertisements of people advertising. And that includes social media outlets like Facebook. It's not just Airbnb and VRBO. All known platforms virtually on a daily basis. They then give us a number of the reports they get back. And they have our database, so they know all of our permits, they have our permit numbers, they have our parcel numbers. They compare that against our parcel numbers, so we're able to then deduce where these are located. And then we're able to then go after them and try to achieve compliance.
But on,
I think Councilmember Parker's been waiting. Did you have a question?
That's right, I'm
You've been waiting a while. Okay. I have a question too, but I want to make sure that Councilmember O'Connell gets to speak on his bill that we've been asking questions about. Go ahead.
On that compliance piece, your office has also come to me and said they're having issues with folks are, I mean, and Robert's literally shown me an email chain where somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm not living at this property, I want to apply for a non-owner occupied permit, Bob writes back and says, hey, this isn't eligible for an owner occupied permit. The next email says, hey, I changed my mind, I'm actually gonna end up living here, I need an owner occupied permit. And my understanding from your department is, there is nothing y'all can do about that right now.
There's not. And what people do, they wise up. They go over to the county clerk's office, they change their driver's license, they change their voter registration card. They come back 30 minutes later and say, I now live there. You know what, but there's nothing in the world we can do. We don't buy that for 1 second, but there's nothing in the world that we can do to stop it.
So they also fill out an affidavit or at all, or?
They do, but that's upon the renewal. So let's say you're issued a permit in year 1, when it comes time to renew on year 2, you sign the affidavit that basically says nothing's changed in the meantime. And I agree to abide by the laws.
So y'all get what I'm saying, is somebody could do exactly this process, apply for an owner occupied permit that they newly can achieve under this legislation, and there is a year of free-for-all where we know, functionally, we can't ever even revoke the permit.
It's very difficult to prove where somebody really lives. And if they come in with a driver's license, voter registration, or trying to prove that they live elsewhere, and the ones that we've built our cases on, we go into court and we lose well over 50% of them. The judge just will not lean with us on that. So.
So I understand that difficulty in revoking a permit, and you know, you gotta have 3 separate incidents, 3 separate violations. What's happening in between? Like, what's happening when they hit violation 1 and it's a solid, clear violation? Is the owner or operator or management company or somebody getting a letter saying, hey, this letting you know you have this 1 violation or this 1 strike against your 3 strike? Like, are we letting them know, or is it all of a sudden we hit 3 and then we can do notify?
I'm afraid it's the latter.
At one point, we were sending a letter after.
We were, yeah, we were. And you know what, maybe I shouldn't say for sure, and maybe Bob's team or Mac or somebody actually is sending a letter saying, hey, heads up, strike 1. I don't know for sure that they're doing that.
That was in the early versions.
No, you're exactly right about that. We were doing that. Are we doing it today? I don't know. I don't want to represent that we are. I don't know.
I kind of like to find out more for sure, because you
I
know,
can
like,
find that out.
like they're all over my district. I have plenty of streets with permit parking, and the enforcement for permit parking is negligible. However, the signs that say, hey, this is permit parking, you're not supposed to be here, are pretty darn effective. Even if we're not, slapping them or giving them tickets, notifying them, I think sometimes does, not always, but sometimes does kind of clear up things.
Well, in all fairness, we have to adjudicate them through court, and so there's a court order that says you are hereby found guilty.
Okay.
That should be clue 1 that you've got to strike.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yes.
Councilmember O'Connell?
Yes, sir.
Does any of this conversation that we're currently having right now, is any of it relevant to your bill?
Yes, because to Councilmember Sledge's point, this would open up the allowance of permits in a number of urban neighborhoods where permit density is already the highest, right? And so enforcement of traffic and parking issues, noise issues, all of that is relevant.
But do we not have existing caps in place?
That was for non-occupied.
Councilmember Parker.
So, like, on my block right now, we suffered for a little over a year through owner-occupied, otherwise good neighbors, but Thursday through Saturday, once a month, they would vacate and would roll the bachelors and bachelorettes.
Yeah.
3 a.m., they'd head out to the patio. One time from my bedroom, windows closed, I could hear them laughing at our neighbors, calling them basically to tell them shut up, right? I mean, and so it's tricky because on my block too, I can look up and down the street. Some of my neighbors would like to do what they see their neighbors doing, which is, hey, we live in part of a duplex. Our neighbors all around us who are in single family homes can get these permits, we cannot. And so in that way, right, there's an equity issue related to the access to the permits. But that access issue is kind of operating at odds with everything else we see from an enforcement and quality of life.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. You know, I've heard that we have not established 3 strikes on any one property. Since the state law change went into effect, have we put a strike on any operator, single strike?
I'm sure that we have, and it would just be in terms of the court orders that go into effect. We find you hereby guilty of whatever it may be. So I don't have an accounting of that, but,
But you think it's greater than 0?
yeah. Yeah.
And the other stuff, the other question I had was addressed by Councilmember Sledge. It's just the continual issue of, you know, I have constituents email, I just want to echo, email me and say, hey, somebody just bought this house. They don't live there. I just got notice they're applying for an owner-occupied permit, and then nothing happens, you know. So I mean, to me, that's sort of one of the remaining issues that I would love to see, you know, us get our hands around before we expand permit eligibility into more neighborhoods. That's just my view on it, so.
And that issue is one of the hardest things for us to catch and prosecute.
What if we required 4 pieces of ID instead of 2?
You know, every little bit helps, I guess.
Would the affidavit at permit issuance assist in any manner? Because, I mean, that would be,
Well, I mean, they're presenting us documentation that I hereby permanently reside at the location where I'm seeking my owner-occupied permit.
Can we make a?
Yeah,
motion?
that's on the original application form, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's how you obtain the owner-occupied. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to, you
I mean,
certify
they're
that you
attesting
are-
on the original application that what they're presenting to you is true and validatable information.
And they give us a driver's license that says that. They give us a voter registration that says that. Irrespective of the fact that they were there an hour previously and it said California on both. And they go across the street, change their residency and come back and see us. You know, we know good and well they didn't move in an hour from California to Tennessee. We know we're being manipulated, but there's not a thing in the world we can do about it other than try to catch them after the fact. And it's, again, doggone hard to try to prove in court where someone actually resides. Where's your principal residence?
The upside is we're getting registered voters.
Well, I'll push back on that. I'll push back on that a little bit. What's happening in some of our districts, including Councilmember O'Connell's and myself, and probably yours too, honestly, is as we go through this redistricting process, right, we've been having these meetings, what we're finding as feedback is we don't know if these population numbers are exactly right yet because they don't account for short-term rentals. And so, in the sense that we don't have the census tract level census data back yet, and so what Greg has been showing us has been this ESRI collected data that tends to be household or 1 year data. So you're really looking more at household units than you are at people who say, yes, I do live here. So all of a sudden, now we as a city are going through a redistricting process that will be by design delayed because we don't actually know who really lives there. And if they redraw your district or mine, based on who says they live there, and then they don't live there 3-4 years, who are we representing?
All right, thanks for the good discussion. Is there anybody else before I turn it over to Councilman O'Connell?
Oh.
Yes.
I just want to give my 3 things again, which was when we wrote the original legislation, which I will freely admit was far from perfect, but it did allow for both sides of the duplex to have a permit. And we quickly learned that that was not necessarily a good idea, so we changed it to only 1. And I think we had some legal issues with that process, but it wasn't because it was not a good idea. It was because we got some people caught in the middle. So we've been there once, and it was problematic. It allows 24 partygoers to be on 1 lot. And in our district, some of those lots are really small. That concerns me. And then there is a precedent for saying you got here first, you get something, and the next person doesn't with daycares, billboards, and advanced financial alternative financing. So it's, and we can talk in terms of equity, and I appreciate the general discussion of equity, but there is a precedent for things that have an impact. To say, enough on the street is enough. So I think those are important things to keep in mind as we continue this discussion.
Mr. Chair, could I add one more thing, just so
Yes.
the group knows? So when the state law stepped in and overrode us, what they said was that that when you obtain a short-term rental permit, that you're essentially grandfathered to that permit under the rules that were in effect on the date that that permit was issued to you. So since 2014, we've had 11 different ordinances that have amended the short-term rental. So for us, that means that if Councilman Swope was issued a permit back in 2015, we would have to look up the law that was in effect on the date that that permit was issued to him and apply those rules. It's not cumulative as most laws where you just carry it forward today and enforce what's in front of you. For us, we now have essentially 11 different short-term rental ordinances that we have to enforce differently based upon which permit it is. It's exceedingly difficult for us.
Is the department looking at going to the state to ask for some sort of cleanup language on that? No, I mean, just take the first
Fair.
step. It's fun to laugh, but I mean, if we're not taking the first step, then
I'll
we
work
can't.
with you on this.
That would really be appreciated.
I'll
And
work
you know,
with you on this.
and Berkeley, you remember when we went up there in front of the state, it was
They said,
pretty dang
don't tell
brutal.
me what I can't do with my property.
I mean, we went up there to be helpful to and ask and answer questions to them, and I'd say it was a less than fun experience. They were not at all pleasant to us.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so, and we kind of already did start talking about the bill itself. Really appreciate you being here to answer all those questions. I think that was really helpful. But I want to make sure that council, before we get to any more into the discussion of the bill itself, I want to make sure that Councilman O'Connell, the sponsor, has time to talk about his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, right, I alluded to this earlier, but I'll just say it explicitly, right? I mean, I have two groups of constituents, and some of them are truly long-term residents of District 19 who want greater flexibility in terms of accessing permits that they see their neighbors often next door or on the same block accessing. By the same token, I also, to Councilmember Sledge's point, represent a group of constituents who have basically said, hell no, no more permits of any kind in our district or in the city as a whole, because it's been so hard to get our arms around everything from the number of people simultaneously present to the other quality of life things that materialize. I would say I am personally comfortable advancing this bill to third reading, but I think I'm not in a rush to pass it, right? The constituents who have been waiting for this, I mean, you look at the bill number, it's 2019-7. If it doesn't pass on third reading in August, you know, it's not like there's some awful thing that happens that's timing based. I think I would intend to defer passage on third reading out far enough to do a couple things. One, to try to make some evaluation whether or not we could get some improvements to the state law. Two, I mean, I have finally, after years, had my first ever conversation with representatives of the industry after they went to the state, bypassing us completely. And, you know, while not necessarily generating outcomes on a compliance basis yet, I think there may be some interest going forward to say, look, how can the industry, the state, Metro, all be moving to a place where some self-policing occurs, higher rates of compliance occur, quality of life enforcement improves, and therefore some of the issues that would plague this bill would be significantly mitigated. So, you know, I guess I would ask the committee to consider that I would not intend to pass this immediately on third reading, because I think it clearly has some work. If the committee would prefer to defer it tonight, that's okay. I mean, planning disapproved it last night.
Would you be willing to re-refer on third?
Absolutely, sure. I'd gladly bring it back to planning and codes.
Did you say that planning approved or disapproved?
Disapproved.
I think it was 5-7 against.
Any other discussion or motions?
As I've told people,
Yeah, I make a motion to defer to recommend deferral to,
With re-referral to
yeah, re-referral.
planning?
Second.
All right. Any discussion about the motion to defer 2 meetings?
Is the re-referral to planning or to kids?
I think it'll come to both, because we haven't passed it out of committee.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's going to,
And
based
is
on
that
his
correct?
motion, he's deferring.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm
If
the
we're on,
first
if
second.
we're on second reading, it's parked at, well, planning actually, I guess,
I was
voted on
saying,
it.
is this, we're on
We're on
BL
code,
19.7, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so that has a recommendation from planning. It could be re-referred on the floor tonight,
Okay.
but yeah.
If it gets
would need to be
deferred
re-referred.
in this committee,
It wouldn't automatically
He
trigger
said
going back
2
to planning,
meetings.
but it
But it would come back
would
to
come
you.
back to this committee.
yeah, okay.
Say that again?
It wouldn't be automatic on the floor based on his motion.
Well, it's been for like 8 times already.
What's that?
It's been deferred for
But
2
if
years.
it comes out of this committee, I'm pretty sure it goes at least once.
My understanding, if you move to defer 2 meetings in the committee, that's not automatic on the floor.
Right.
Right, yeah. I think that the position that this bill is currently in, there's no more automatic deferrals
Oh, I see, okay.
from the committee action.
But I mean, I'm personally comfortable and would be happy to defer 2 meetings on the floor and re-refer to both committees.
Yeah, to me, I'm conflicted right now, you know. Councilmember Sledge made some very good points. You know, my district's pretty calm with short-term rentals now. They were a little crazy earlier, but, you know, Councilmember O'Connell made very good points about equity. It'd be kind of tough to be sitting in an HPR with your neighbor having a short-term rental permit and you not having one.
Exactly.
Especially if everybody's compliant. So, I'll support the deferral motion, especially in light of the fact that the sponsors seem so amenable to working through this again.
Okay, any other discussion? Are we ready to vote on the motion to defer 2 meetings? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let me make sure I got the right number. I believe there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seven of us. Who left? Courtney.
Say Johnson.
All right. I don't really have any updates on the fair, on the fairgrounds and where the speedway's going, but as soon as I know that either something specific's been presented or there's still a plan to have a joint meeting with the fair board, a joint public meeting with the fair board, but I don't think we're still that close to that. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Metro government has a new way to help you stay safe when there's a hazard like a flood or active shooter situation. Hi, I'm Chief Jay Survey with the Office of Emergency Management. MEANS, the Metro Emergency Alert and Notification System, is your Metro call to action in an emergency. MEANS sends important safety instructions to your cell phone, your home phone, or email. You choose the method. MEANS is different from other services that we offer because messages from MEANS are controlled by your local government and sent to you directly. You can be assured that when you receive a MEANS alert, you're getting accurate, real-time info from Metro public safety departments.